Good morning to you, my friends, wherever you may be in the world today. Alan Clements here from Santa Monica, California, United States of America. May 8th, 2021, an ongoing series of talks, sharings, based upon my newly released book, Extinction, X-Rated. It's an auto-fictional dark satire on good and evil. It may make you laugh. It may not make you laugh. It may make you confounded. You will not be neutral. Welcome to today, a spontaneous sharing to do with consciousness as qualities. And the subtitle, the presence is all that we have, along with everything else that we have. Presence is all we have. I don't want to sound cliched with that statement. And consciousness, this habitat, this cognitive environment, an intersecting set of ecosystems, to state the obvious. Biological ecosystem right now, with all the various arteries and organs, feel it, known through ideas and visualization and sensations. We're encased, we're embodied in this incredibly complex ecosystem of heart and mind and brain. And within that, there are these portals, to state the obvious, but often neglected. The portals of perception: seeing, hearing, tasting, touching, thinking, feeling, cognizing. And in contexts of earth, cosmos, dimensions, memory, subconscious identities, a multiplicity of intersecting intelligences or ecosystems, in the environment of a body, through the sense doors of perception, in context to a world known through seeing, hearing, tasting, touching, cognition, with their past, future, present, and the unexplainable mystery of all time, all places. Beyond recognition, we have to take into account the concept of infinity. So here we sit, and I use the word consciousness as qualities. Pause. I don't know about you, but I'm very high on the spontaneity of spontaneity. Something about the naturalness of unconfined authenticity, the inherent eroticism in that level of purity of expression, a type of, I don't know about you, but I'm very fond of individuals who, it doesn't matter their depth or their wisdom or their background, there's something uncontrived about them, or that they have a humility, a modesty at the edge that intersects with their history, their conditioning, with their voice, as imperfect as it may be, as they mispronounce syllables of God and Jesus and the Buddha. They can't even spell mindfulness forward or backward. They could give a damn about being present, yet there's something very beautiful about their uncontrived naturalness. I've seen so many meditators over the decades posture their way towards enlightenment, as if they could actually call in the very fact of the most extraordinary state of transcendent awakening simply by egoic pride, greed. And of course, it's a natural tendency to over-exaggerate your conceptual mind, your thinking mind, your unrecognized egoic mind. I know that as well as anyone. I have had a very hefty dose over my decades, and still continue to do, of pride and conceit and arrogance and false humility, overestimation, underestimation, the folds of the psyche, But there's something about this authenticity, this quality of uncontrived naturalness. I'm going to talk about it today from consciousness as qualities. I don't know about you, but I want to just cry out today, are you, invite me into your theater of beautiful, absurd prose and poetry and dance and the electric improvisational beauty of naturalness. I want to ask you, is this the best, absolutely best day of your life, Alan? What would you be holding back for with the idea of the mirage of tomorrow and the illusions cast upon that forward stage set called tomorrow? And we live in this hypocrisy of denying the authenticity of a natural love in anticipation of a better tomorrow on the, is that a mirage? Is that a discernible reality? Or is it just a fiction, an illusion cast upon the cave walls of my own denial, within my own brain, within my own cognitive interior? And that delusion, hallucination, projection, dance, fear of death, of the anticipation of a better tomorrow. Wow. So I'm inviting myself today to go so in with the challenge, okay? So fully in with the uncontrived naturalness, to the fidelity of your deepest passions, right, Alan? The most absolutely intrinsic sensibilities of where you derive the marrow of dignity. Are you willing to embody that voice, that naturalness? Break from the confines of that marriage to ordinary and mediocrity called wife or husband. Don't play it safe. All for what? So you can die in denial? Everything sounds absurd when you really empower the possibility, the likelihood, the imminent certainty of mortality across the railroad tracks of conformity, and you want to jump out of that boxcar before it goes to the death camp of that intrinsic place of denial and self-compromise. Self-compromise. Meditation, if anything taught me about meditation, about self-compromise, was meditation. Because there you are, living in the contrivances of conditioning, natural as they may be, but you have multiplicities of suburbs. At times you're the Donald Trump. At times you're the Joe Biden. At times you're the Davos. At times you're the Bill Gates. At times you're the vaccine. At times you are the numismatic sex worker of, enlightening the Buddha on how to be an embodied gentleman. There's so many variations on the interiority of our inner being. Meditation and the sanctity and the sacredness of monastic environments. People have so many misunderstandings of a monastic environment. But from my experience, meditation was both a shedding of, I want to say, worn out skins, but it's an acceleration of things that no longer value you on the terms of your quality. I mean, when you really think about it, all we do and have is, what will I do today? How well will I perform? To what? In accordance with the expectations of my children, responsibilities? Yes, I want to be practical here. No, I don't want to be practical today. 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 Wow, why is that so radical to say? I want to be unhinged. I want to be breathtakingly raw. I want to become so awake I transcend the fear of death, of longevity. Quality. Why is quality propaganda to so many people? Why is blending in? Why does no offense to suburbs. Why is blending in and making it fucking work the protocol of our society, our culture, our dharma, our yoga? Doing an asana right? What about the paraplegic that can't move and doing the asana of enlightenment with such authenticity you can't even see the movement, but you can feel it? There's a wake that makes even God and Patanjali shudder in naturalness to overcome their own contrivance, right? So isn't that the quest? Quality of connection to self. The highest radiance of that communication with reality and with the fidelity of your own emerging transcendent selflessness, to learn to live in a dance. Okay, pause. The artistry of quality, right there, aesthetics. May I invite you to invite me, even when we have the angel of love, the angel of Tantra, the angel of death, co-mixing on our day. May I invite you to invite me to invite our friends in this samsaric sangha dance that we're all embedded in, to empower the artistry of quality, aesthetics. The way we talk, touch, live, walk, move, bend, dress, rest, awaken, watch our breath, feel our body, move, wash our face. I know when I stopped cigarette smoking maybe 25 years ago, I had so much time because I was no longer doing what I did to get back to the cigarette. And all of a sudden, the vacancies in the day were felt as like, oh my God, what am I going to do with so much time? And I learned again to re-inhabit, if you will, the concept of bhavana, which is the beautification of consciousness intrinsically meant to slow down, to smell the roses, to feel the fidelity of your own identity, your own vulnerability, your own preoccupation with wealth and status, in hoarding and hoping and fearing, all the various dialectics of normal conditioning. But all of a sudden, bhavana takes on this heightened quality, and all of a sudden you find that slowing down. I'm going to die at the end of the day today. You're going to die at the end of the day today. It could be a month, it could be a year, it could be 20. The earth is going to disintegrate. Mother Sun is going to engulf us in 200 million years. The sixth mass extinction is well underway. Everyone who even lives for a month or 100 years always says it just was a blink in time. We're going to die at the end of the day. What will we do today with the preciousness of that recognition? Will we cower in the corner and beg Satan and God not to take us? Will we make up for lost time and throw off our clothes of pretense and conformity and live the dream life in these final 24 hours? Better now than later, because there will be no in-breath unless you believe in rebirth. But what will you do? How high an intimate stake of quality can you play? I remember this in a monastery with the quality of bhavana. How often I would hear from my teachers, Mahasi Seda, Seda Ujawana, Seda Ujanaka, Seda Upandita, take the time out of your life. How boring, right? I can't wait to get to the next. I can't wait to enhance the quality of my loot. I can't wait to put all that digital numbers in my bank account to feel more secure that I won't die in loneliness and being impoverished without loot. Think of all the ways in which people talk about wanting to be honest, and right there, they're lying to themselves, their partners, to their family, to their God, to their forests, as they walk softly in the footsteps of their own denial. What does it mean to co-join with a dancer, a player, an artist, a savant, the breakout queen, king that you know yourself to be? When are you going to break out, Alan? now that you have been given a prognosis of certainty that if you don't do this, the diagnoses will come true. And hey, guess what? Quality is all that matters. Taking the clock off consciousness. Doesn't mean you don't do things on time, right? So, my way of ranting and raving today, thank you for being on board. I wish I made more sense, but not really. But I think you know what I'm saying, because it's about the qualities of consciousness in presence. You know, when I think about this intrinsic yearning over the decades, I loved the psilocybin. I loved the acid molecule. I even loved, when I was young, the marijuana, because it enhanced a sense of meaning and purpose and immediacy and unpostponed presence. And it allowed me, I can begin to see the facets of consciousness. I never knew that I could be mindful of the phenomenology of my own mind. And in that mindful engagement to the phenomenology of my own mind, my own perception, my own sankharas, my own proclivities, my own conditioning, my own states and qualities and characteristics, I could move with it. Artistic, spiritual aesthetics. I could learn the art of a vocabulary that was emotional, that was spiritual, that was Dhammic. Meditation for me is very much about enhancing those qualities of self-ubuntification, self-bodhisattvic states, transforming complexity into higher radiant feeling body. And I don't know about you, but one of the most boring, treacherous things to be confined in is a deadbeat dinner with people. Not you, not people you know, but those people that we know, but not you. And it's feeling like a kind of incarceration, right? Where all of a sudden you feel like this is not even a good Truman Show, this is a bad Truman Show. And remember those times when you were growing up and you're at dinner with your family, no offense to your family, but it was like, God damn, man, I don't belong here. The only way out of this prison camp is to fucking lie. Hi, where are you going? I'm going back to my room, jump out my goddamn window, do some acid, come back in at 3 a.m, pretend I was sleeping, wake up. How was your sleep, Alan? It was magnificent, Mom. It was an amazing event. You would not believe where I went. All forms of deception and denial in order to survive the prison camp of my own conditioning and my incapable mind. Mom, I want to level with you. I'm doing this thing called LSD. I'm only 15 years old, and it is absolutely turning me on to everything I've ever wanted to know that school never did. And I love you, Mom. But I'm telling you, I have found a salvation, and it's called the elevation of the qualities of me. Pause. I dropped that story after a while. I went to a monastery to meditate where you can actually enhance consciousness on the terms of consciousness. If you're not a meditator, I would really recommend not practicing mindfulness per se, but vipassana, insight meditation. I'm going to have a retreat if I live long enough, either on Maui and or in Bali. I'm inviting people who want to come and commune. Write to me. A number of people have written. I just can't respond back, but I will eventually. We'll get back. But come participate in this field of heightened quality where presence is all that matters. And we also invigorate new, deeper dimensions of our identity, even to the point of examining how perception, the proliferation of the familiar concepts of I and other, life and death, old age, disease, God, awakening, the Four Noble Truths, mindfulness, sex, tantra, all these ideations, they have fidelity, but if you identify, I don't know if you know this, or at least it's been my experience, if you identify with the sanya or the perception and you believe that particular conceptualization as true, you are living in the hallucination of an illusion. It's a fabrication that doesn't have a direct experience other than perception. But the hallucination within perception isn't real. There is no border between America and Canada that you can call, yes, that is real. It's a fiction. And this is where I gather through my own meditation, my teacher's engagement with the Buddha's teaching, that conceptualization, sanya, papancha, sankhara, those Buddhist concepts that really speak to the ideation illusion of borders and time, and even the most subtle illusions, that of self and other than self. I mean, to think of the universe as a subatomic, centerless ecosystem of interrelated laws and principles. Of course, this is just a very fumbling human here, trying to identify through very ordinary language the unexplainable mysteries of this quantum field and the pre and the trans quantum field. Where is it? Who are we, other than these kind of phantasm creatures with a temporary lifespan that seems to be about 100 years or 50 years or 10 years or maybe even a few months, and it evaporates, very much like waking up from a dream, and you go, oh my God, I understand that papancha and sankhara are illusions, like mirages, and we live in these illusions and they call them real, right? So quality of consciousness and presence is all we have. It drove me to a monastery. I listened to my intrinsic voice calling. There I said, I want to know that which I don't know. Listen up. Watch and feel and know and see and have the courage to see yourself more and more intimately, more and more honestly. It was just brought home so much to me in the monastery. I bless you, teachers. Meditation is the radical dance of self-honesty. Why? Because you can unhinge from compromising qualities that you consider to be beautiful, tender, right, and appropriate, but the more you feel into them, you go, dissonance, noise. It's far more intimate to make love through non-grasping than it is attachment. It may feel more passionate to be so engaged in that vocation of grasping, clinging, and all the euphemisms that we use to mask that kind of fear-based engagement called passion, right? But then letting go isn't like, hey man, I'm just Teflon. But we know it's the aesthetic, a sensual, existential aesthetic that is so hallucinatory that you can kiss without needing to fear it dissipating. And that's the insight process I've seen through meditation. I think those of you who have practiced and who live in the fidelity of an always ever-evolving awakening, trans-postural, translocation, you know that life is a dance of heightening our qualities. So I'm stating the obvious, and I know that you know, but please remind me to remind you, to remind our friends and family, that here we are in this dance of life, in these final minutes before we all expire, whether it be 10 years or 20 years or 50 years, or some of the youth who may live 100 years, or our earth life. How long it will last? It's going to be around for hundreds of thousands and millions of years, and life will come and go. We're a blip. What will we do with the preciousness of these few minutes that we have, where it seems to be intact, where we're breathing, we're walking, we have the attributes of comfort and security, all the various things for our own production as actors, producers, writers, on our own stage set with our own tribe and family and fellow artists and sister renegades. What will we do together? And to me, it's about quality. And I could discern that quality and refine that quality. I'm really craving more heightened, intimate quality, out-of-the-box quality, non-collusion quality, rebirthing into life rather than fearing death, constantly evolving the most intimate, dying states of inner beingness on the canvas of shared love. What can we do today that we've never done before, love? What can we do and how we reinvent and re-inspire intimacy and authenticity hour by hour? 2 days ago will seem like, a cave drawing compared to the fidelity of a trans-astrological, projection of imagination on infinity. Wonderment, awe, play, risk-taking. What are the attributes of your qualities? I invite you to invite me. Write them down. Aspire. Don't do tomorrow what we can do today. We never know, but we always know. And that's the thing in the great hallucination, in the illusion of Papancha. It gives the delusion, projection, life that isn't there. There is no future. In an infinite universe with no absolute north, south, east, or west center point. Timelessness to enhance engaged qualities of awakening. So, coming closer to the final quarter of this sharing today, thank you for being in my life. It's a challenging time for me. I'm rising into heightened qualities of gift and preciousness and risk-taking and unhinging from unnecessary conditions and noise, or in any way attending to the unrecognized psychologies of others. I am not here to forgive or to enhance, only to be in fidelity at this time with the truest integrity and dignity and artistry of my being. And if I fail and I don't walk the walk, you're invited. Should you be invited to participate in a more intimate reflection of growth together. Right now, I am seizing the carpe diem moment of my existential life. I've always known it's coming. We all know it's coming, but never more radiant than today. A few stories before I end the day. I was thinking, I cannot help but think about my beloved Myanmar on a regular basis. It's both heartbreaking and awe-inspiring to in any way not perpetually, incessantly elevate the status of these radical boys and girls, men and women, nuns and monks in that country. Just yesterday, the terrorist organization occupying the country today, run by a former general named Ming Online, his initials MAH, and his organization called the State Administration Council, known as the terrorist group, the latest designation on the planet, by the way, MASAC it's called, like the Taliban or Khmer Rouge and Pol Pot, or Boko Haram, Al-Qaeda. And they've, because of the civil disobedience movement, doctors and nurses and teachers and professors, scientists have all refused to participate in the evil of this terrorist group that are doing all that they can to decimate the future of freedom and democracy. And I think something like 1,600 professors and administrators in high schools and colleges throughout Burma yesterday were permanently fired, and their families being attacked and incarcerated by the evil organization. I mean, could you imagine? It's unimaginable. And what does it mean to live in quality, knowing that persecution is inevitable if you stand up for your love? Right there, pause. Write down the ways in we feel that we're compromised, where we just can't find the moral, ethical, spiritual courage in our heart. And we're crying out in our own silent complicity. How can I understand the beauty of extracting myself to give myself the full liberty of the contours of my lips, my nose, my breasts, my genitals, my legs, my arms, the natural beauty of my unconfined, liberating soul in fidelity with the dance of other. I want to know true love in this lifetime, right? And yes, we've each participated in various dimensions of love. It's not to vilify who we're with or what we've done. But if life isn't about the elevation of quality, what is it? What does enlightenment mean? I'm not down with chop wood, carry water. It's not my thing. Zen is not my thing. A radical, creative, theatrical, eroticized, Ubuntu-fied dance party of uber, super, unconfined, trans, holy, rad. Do your dance. I don't want to do Tantra based upon looking into the eyes of the goddess alone. I want to make love that's unique to the woman and to the man, to the goddess, to the god, to the transcendent that doesn't deny shadow, darkness, and folds. Those beautiful ways that erotic presence becomes defined. Why are sexual fantasies so taboo, except in the silence of a closed mind and eyes, in a darkened room, or in the parlor of pleasure with the eroticized sex worker, or the fantasized retreat where it's totally naturalized to speak about some fantasies but not others? The denial of beauty. It's unthinkable the ways in which consciousness concocts propaganda to create self-puppeting, self-propaganda that perpetuates mediocrity. In meditation, for me, in high-quality communion, and that's really, really rare. It's hard to even find it in a therapist. It's certainly hard to find it in a partner. So many collusion partnerships, which I don't judge or take down, but at this stage of life, coming untethered in our dance of authenticity and liberation, and I would even call it nibbana, the awakening from the awakening. Are you there? I just loved my teachers and my guides, and they were friends because you know who you are. Just humor is like that, right? Satire is like that. Laughter is like that. It just liberates the space, and you put in a little bit of red wine and a little bit of trans ayahuasca brew, and you put a little bit of meditative trans glue, and you put a little bit of freedom in the space, and you put a little bit of kind of existential MDMA in the heart, and all of a sudden you've created a trans concoction event where I think I've lived and I'm living in order for this to be realized. Strike me dead with unable to get enough party. But I'll tell you, when I hear the word gift and preciousness right now, I'm thinking, get down into the existential party of beauty, of wisdom-informed lust, of transcendent awakening. I would really, 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 really like to know who can play in nibbanified fields of erotic awakening, where unconditional freedom and peace and acceptance is not only the norm, but it's chosen to be the elevating music of what we dance to. I think of these Buddhist texts, I'm reading them now morning, afternoon, and evening, and I'm reading my beloved former teacher, the Mahasi Sayadaw, a prolific creator, a prolific spoken word Dharma teacher, 85 books. I'm reading his books at night, and I am awed at the dance of liberating shared space that he's able to articulate on a page, translated from the original Burmese in English, in poor English. And I can't even imagine what it was like to be in those sonic environments where he is sharing those spaces, not to mention who he's referring to. The boys and girls, probably you and me in our former lifetimes, with the Buddha, with Yasodhara, his wife, with Mahamoggallana, with Theraputa, with Vimala, with Visakha, all the boys and girls who undressed from ordinary and said, we want to shake it out and elongate the most beautiful qualities of consciousness and dance and commune together in an enlightening thing called, the awakening of Dhamma. The awakening of Dhamma. It's so trans-pedantic if you want to feel it that way. And so come join me. May I come join you in this next evolution of shared awakening. I must say this story. In honor of my brothers and sisters in Burma, many of them have passed away. When you're a nun or a monk, you have, this for the benefit of those of you who don't know, you have lay supporters, usually one or two, who invite you to ask them at any time for any needs that you may have, because you as a nun, a bhikkhuni, or a monk, a bhikkhu, are consciously, you've consciously chosen to be dependent on others to live and to survive, so that there's absolutely no transactional presence, no accumulation of money, no ownership of money, no food, no cooking, no clothing other than 2 sets of robes, a razor to keep one's head shaved, an alms bowl where you walk through villages and those who wish to offer food to you in the monastery, you can stop and lift the lid of the bowl and they can place it in the bowl if they so choose, and if they choose not to, you walk on. It's very sacred to experiment with that level of elegant simplicity where, as much as I poeticize and eroticize the Ubuntufication of shared space, I'm an American, I'm a human, I'm a Westerner. Yes, that music is my blood. But the monastic eroticism was a sacred renunciation where you created love-making landscapes with the sacred feminine, whether it be with men or women. You never overtly talked sexually, you never overtly ever touched another man or a woman, but you felt into these elegant qualities of consciousness made predominant through nekama, or renunciation. And primarily it was learning for me the sacred love affair of self, all the ways in which I denied and postured and posed, the way in which I was kind of my own sacred audience of one. And then that became more and more beautiful to see how beautiful and easy uncontrived naturalness felt. But my lay supporters, Do Yin Yin and U Sein Win, were also Mahasi Sayadaw's supporters. And prior to the military coup d'etat in 1962, they owned the movie industry, the acting industry, the movie producing industry in Burma. And they were an exceedingly wealthy couple, had homes throughout the country. They had traveled the world. They'd even stayed in the White House before as guests of a president. And she, Do Yin Yin, was a descendant of the former monarchy of Burma, seated in Mandalay. So in other words, she was in the lineage of aristocracy and royalty, and a beautiful mind. Just loved her. And So we became quite intimate, she and her husband, when they would come to the monastery and offer food, and they would come and pay their greetings to me, and we would have these quality exchanges. And then I was forced out of the country several times and eventually went back in as a lay person. And I wanted to meet her for the first time and him and to express my gratitude. It was a reunion visit to Burma where I felt that I wanted to meet so many of the people that I had never really had time to talk with and spend time with in their village, in their home. So I went around the entire country with my list and sought out sacred relationships to pay my gratitude and debt of gratitude to these men and women. So I went to Mandalay and I had the address, and I had heard about the Great Fire in Mandalay. I forget exactly what year it was, maybe 85 or 86 or so. And I had a rickshaw driver, and I could see that we're going through the affluent area of Mandalay, and I could see, oh my goodness, all these homes and mansions were entirely burned down. And I was wondering, oh my God, we're getting closer to her number. And I was wondering, oh my goodness, would Daw Yin Yin's home and U Sein Win's home be burned down? And there was the number, and the carriage driver spoke to me and said, this is the home that you're looking for. And frankly, I was quite shocked to see that it was still smoldering from fire. The entire house had been burned down in this super Beverly Hills area of Mandalay. And I was quite shocked. Had my two precious lay supporters died in the fire, or had they been killed? And so I got out, paid the driver. But I looked into the large lot that was still smoldering, and there was a small canopy. It looked like a canvas canopy and a little smoke coming out from under it, but I didn't know who was there, so I opened the gate and walked in. And there was my beloved lay supporter, Daw Yin Yin. I don't know exactly her age at that time, but could have been in her 80s. And there she was in her filthy longy and soiled white blouse, her hair unkept and obviously unbathed. And it was like, my God, this is one of the wealthiest, most aesthetic human beings in Burma, from royalty and wealth and status, and Mahasi Sayadaw's very own lay supporters and my own. And the tragedy of a house burning, but look, and she stands up and speaks in fluent English. Look at you. Look at you. And we looked at each other for a long time. And quality. And she invites me to sit down on a piece of wood, and we began to talk. And of course, what happened? What's happening? And she explained in long form over several hours such a powerful, poignant story of how the dictator, Ne Win, who is the grandfather to the dictator today, Ming Online. There was the direct descendant, Tan Shui, and then Ming Online. And these are descendants in the terrorist group in Burma, starting with Ne Win. He undermined our credibility in the country. He took all of our wealth. He denied my husband medical treatment. He died of cancer. I was reviled in the state media as inauthentic and fraudulent and a criminal. Even friends turned against me without discerning more intimately the truth of what was being broadcast around the country by this evil Ne Win. And then there was the fire, and the firemen were ordered not to extinguish the fire of my own home as penalty from Ne Win. And here I sit with everything, she says, everything taken from me except this charred lot. No savings, no income, no relatives, no husband, a few friends, not many. And I'm choosing here at this point, this is my language, translating Do Yin Yin, to live my bhikkhuni in lay clothing, in my home, without fear of loss, aging, disease, death, victimhood. She smiled, this most amazingly radiant, liberated, high quality communion with her Dhamma, qualities of consciousness. Presence is all you have. We've never touched, Alan, we've never held hands. Never shared this part. She reaches out. You're a monk. And we just sit there in a kind of Dhammic transcendent communion together. You know, those spaces where it's so uncontrived, it's so natural, it's so intimate. You both could live and breathe and die and be reborn, rebirthing in the magnificence of your shared parami, knowing that if we really knew who we were together in this life and past lives and future lives, think of that. Lovers, making love and having children, having families, being animals together, flying in the sky, being in the oceans, being in trans-human realms as devas and brahmas, and who knows, even being in lower worlds as disembodied gods and goddesses and ghosts, and traversing this infinite realm of dimensionality and causality, only to commune around this small little fire in this charred land. It could be the charred earth that we're going to be in post-extinction. It could be the burning of your own house. It could be the end of your own body, your own future, your own suburb. We're all in this together. Qualities of consciousness, non-postponement, the elevation of the most beautiful states of eroticized dimensional freedom, to dance with the angel of death and decode her or him from fear, the gift, mortality as illusion, aging as illusion. All conventional attributes of what they call the propaganda of Lokiya. All the dualities and the convulsions of sanya, perception, and papancha, the proliferation of ideations, of ideas that cannot be experienced. There is no border between America and Canada. You can't find the Pacific Ocean as distinctly different from the Atlantic. It's all degrees of coolness and wetness and warmth, direct reality. Ideation doesn't exist. It's a mirage on the horizon of one's ignorance, projected into as ordinary and what we do as humans. Come out of that configuration of propaganda and see reality rightly, Alan. Commune in high quality connection with those who know Dhamma. And Do Yin Yin and I hung in that radical silence of purity, of mutuality, of kissing and talking and loving and crying and reflecting on infinity. What do you do? What is your dance? What is your invitation? What is your non-script script for communion in the highest radiant qualities? What will you postpone till you find the best next lover? Or leave the one you're with because it's just no longer the way in which she or he touches your soul or your body or your breasts or your yoni or your genitals or your ear or your tongue or your mouth or your dharma in the way that you know that you are capable of touching. Why fucking compromise when it's on a clock of death? Why belong to the suburb of compromise? No offense, suburbs. I grew up in one. I grew up in a trailer court suburb. I know. And Da Yin Yin and I spent most of the day there, but all of a sudden she looked over my shoulder and she saw out in the front gate a line of monastics. She says, please wait. She stirred the clay bowl with a wooden spatula. I have made rice to give as dana to the monastics. And she poured it into a bowl and she walked out to the front. And I could see that she was putting ever so elegantly rice gruel into the bowls of these monastics. Timeless vocation of heart-centric giving. Heart-centric giving. I can tell you right now, what it means to be given to. You feel it. My whole adult life, I've been so blessed being the recipient of dana. The people of Myanmar are my Dhamma brothers and sisters. It's so heartbreaking to see the crucifixion of these people. At the same time, their timeless communion with dana, sila, moral integrity, and bhavana, the beautification of qualities of consciousness. They understand the ubuntufication of mind into the radiance of parami. And they even include all religions. It's trans-Buddhist. Well, she came back, sat down, and we talked. And she said, you know, this is not with pretense, Alan. I've given so much dana in my life, but I never gave dana as purely as I've given dana now. She's one of the wealthiest people in the world. Imagine Donald Trump has nothing, and there he is, sitting with Da Yin Yin, satirically as this is, and he's in a longi, and his orange hair is all grungy, and he's in Mar-Lago. There's a group of monastics out front, and I'm sitting there with him in this charred ruins. Alan, it took eons of time to understand the purity of dana. We're all made of the same photonic fibers, all blended into this ecosystem of good and bad, right and wrong, horror and hell and love and salvation. What we vilify, we deny in ourselves. That's not a cliche. In the mandala of totality, we're all unified principles of symbols. Everything we judge and love are all part of our own interior war, battle, love affair with Mara and the Buddha, with right and wrong, good and bad, love and hate, fame and shame. To me, it all comes back to communion and qualities of consciousness. Presence is all we have. She said, this loss of everything has so allowed me to hear, this is my language, a deeper, more nuanced motivation, a rhythm, a purity, a quality of being, she said, that my dana today, without the artifice of other to shield me from the pure intimacy of now. Thank you, samsaric karmic forces, for delivering this rude, abrupt lesson of loss and denigration and persecution to deliver up the purity of my own intrinsic evolving beauty, if you will. I can tell you, at the end of the day, if we have the time, I'm not going to be using a calculator to see how much loot I've spent or saved when I die. It'll be the intrinsic memory flow of how well I've lived and how well I've loved. And are those phantoms and demons of regret and shame, and they're gone. I have written a book that vanquished them. I encourage you to write that book, to vanquish historical demons, make good on the promise of integrity. So as I close today in this wild, little, intimate, spontaneous scream poem, thank you for being in my life. There's a lot of life I feel in me. I've never felt quite so gifted with the preciousness of the day. There's a lot of obstacles and challenges coming up this next week and the following week. I'm not sure of the regularity of being here to share these self-liberating, self-therapeutic exchanges with the gift of your presence. Thank you from my heart. But let me enhance this one quality one more time. It's a combination of communion and risk-taking, and to see that risk-taking isn't really a risk of letting go of so-called temporary forms of pleasure and security. It's the anticipation of deprivation, struggle, or having even less than what one has. But my sense, in my exploration over the last 50, 60 years of Dharma life, is that there's something intrinsically beautiful in learning to kiss the relaxation of grasping, fear, and attachment, and the bonds to those propagandas of conditioning and false security. The more I let go of thinking that I'm dying and seeing that I'm being reborn, the more I overcome the diagnosis of disease and see it as the gift of healing into Dhamma and love, not healing of the body. I'm not preoccupied with that. I want to be preoccupied with intimate communion and let the fidelity of those sonic, existential ecosystems and the roots of that and the leaves of those do what it needs to do to the physicality of my being and your being. I do believe that will be natural. So, if there's something in this today for you, may it be found in your heart, in your soul, in your life, the way in which you talk, question, and determine who you are, with whom you want to be. And may I encourage you, it's cliched as it is, it's not. What happened to my dear beloved Da Yin Yin is happening to you and to me. We may not know it, but everything that we have, everything that we own is a photonic sandcastle of illusion. And even within that, here we sit, here we love, here we talk, here we live. How well will you enhance the qualities of your consciousness? What will you do with the preciousness of what you know in your heart today? Who will you touch? Who will you call? What will you write? How well will you bathe? What will you choose to eat? How well will you eat it? What will you drink? How will you love? How well will you dream? How will you free yourself into that next dimension of your own bhava, your own dhamma, your own beauty? So from my heart to yours, hope to see you tomorrow. Thank you for being in my life, and have a beautiful, beautiful day.